Something monumental just happened in Africa that will make some very powerful people very angry. A new leader has emerged, a young leader, someone that has taken it upon himself to unite the entire continent of Africa. He's a military captain. He's only 34 years old. And when he seized power in the latest coup in Burkina Faso, he didn't just take over the government. He took over the minds of millions of Africans across the continent who have been yearning for a new narrative, a new identity, and a new vision for Africa. This young military leader is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and he just made a historic declaration, a call for a borderless, united Africa. In this video, we break down exactly what he said, why a united Africa would threaten Western powers, and how this could change the future of the continent forever. Welcome back to the channel. It's me, and this is the news. Let's get right into it. On September, Captain Ibrahim Traoré addressed the nation. The young military leader gave his first speech since he led a group of soldiers to overthrow the country's interim government. And during this address, he declared that there are no ethnic or religious divisions in Burkina Faso, but the artificial borders separating countries are dividing the people. He called for a referendum to remove the borders and unify the land, stating that the borders must disappear. The borders are only in the minds of the colonialists. We are one and the same people. We must remain united. Our diversity is our strength. The borders, it's them who put them there. For us, there are no borders. We are one and the same people. These comments were not only directed at the people of Burkina Faso, but all Africans everywhere. And they were some of the most significant remarks made by any political leader on the continent in recent times. But why does this young captain want to unite the whole of Africa? And why should we as Africans embrace this idea? To understand where Traoré is coming from, let's go back to basics. Our borders were not drawn by Africans. They were drawn by Europeans during the Berlin Conference of 1884, which lasted only 14 days. During this conference, European powers met up to divide the continent of Africa amongst themselves. They carved out borders to suit their interests, ignoring ethnic, cultural, and religious boundaries. As a result, many African countries today are home to dozens of different ethnic groups who don't share the same language, customs, or history. And it's estimated that between 500 to 2,000 ethnic groups exist across the continent, with each group having their own unique culture, traditions, and values. So now let's fast forward to the present day. Many of these colonial borders remain in place, which means that millions of Africans who share the same ethnic, cultural, and historical backgrounds find themselves separated on either side of these borders. It is perhaps unsurprising then that there is growing support for pan-Africanism, the idea that Africans across national borders can come together to form a united continent. And it was the legendary Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, who first mooted the idea of African unity way back in 1962. At the time, he famously stated that unless Africa was united, it would be difficult for the continent to gain true independence. We have to work towards a united Africa, he said. Our first objective must be the complete liberation of our continent. We must fashion out a united Africa, drawing closer the ties between the various states and nations of Africa in a kind of federation. Although he never lived to see the realization of his dream, more than half a century later, his dream lives on through organizations such as the African Union, whose aim is to accelerate the political and socio-economic integration of the continent. However, unlike previous leaders, Traoré is taking things to a whole new level. He's calling for a literal union of African states, even suggesting a single currency and passport for all Africans. According to him, this would allow people to move freely around the continent, contribute to its development, and prevent illegal immigration. But some have criticized this plan, arguing that it's unrealistic and ignores the vast differences between African countries. But this is where we need to remember that every great idea starts out as just that, an idea. When Martin Luther King spoke about his dream of racial equality in America, he too was heavily criticized, but his dream eventually became a reality. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi once envisioned a free India, a dream that many thought was impossible at the time. But his dream also eventually came true. The point here is that dreams don't always start off as dreams. Sometimes they start off as crazy ideas, but with enough passion and perseverance, crazy ideas can become beautiful realities. Now, this brings us to the question, why do the West, and other world powers oppose this idea of African unity so much? Well, the answer is simple. A united Africa represents a threat to Western interests. You see, for decades, the West has successfully divided African countries through artificial borders, corrupt leaders, and endless conflicts. By keeping Africa divided, Western powers have been able to exploit the continent's vast natural resources and maintain control over its people. But if Africa were to unite, the balance of power would shift dramatically. A united Africa would have more say in global affairs and would be less dependent on Western aid and investment. It would also be harder for Western powers to exploit African resources or manipulate African leaders. The implications of a united Africa are far-reaching, and it's no surprise that Western powers are nervous. In fact, if we look back at the history of pan-Africanism, we can see that every attempt to unite the continent has been met with resistance from outside forces. In the early 20th century, Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican-born activist, called for a Pan-African Congress to unite people of African descent worldwide. However, his efforts were undermined by colonial authorities who feared the power of a united Africa. Similarly, in the 1960s, Kwame Nkrumah's vision for a united Africa was also thwarted by colonial powers who preferred to deal with smaller, weaker states. Even today, Western powers continue to meddle in African affairs to prevent the continent from uniting. From supporting coups to funding corrupt leaders, the West will stop at nothing to maintain its grip on Africa. But here's the thing, we can't let them win. If we truly want to honor the legacy of those who fought for African independence, if we truly want to build a better future for our continent, then we must unite. And this is why Captain Traore's recent speech is so important. He is giving voice to the millions of Africans who have long dreamed of a united continent. He is showing that it is possible to challenge the status quo and that it is possible to create a better future for Africa. But of course, this won't be easy. There are many obstacles in the way, not least the fact that many African countries are deeply divided along ethnic, religious, and political lines. However, if we can overcome these divisions and unite, then we can create a truly great future for our continent. A united Africa would be a force to be reckoned with on the global stage. With a population of over 1.4 billion people, a united Africa would be the most populous nation on Earth. It would also have the youngest population in the world with over 60% of its people under the age of 25. This means that a united Africa would have a large and youthful population that could drive economic growth and development. Additionally, a united Africa would have vast natural resources at its disposal, from oil and minerals to fertile land and a favorable climate. The continent has everything it needs to become a major player in the global economy. Finally, a united Africa would have a rich and diverse culture that could be a source of national pride and unity. Despite the challenges that lie ahead, the potential benefits of African unity are simply too great to ignore. If we are serious about building a better future for our continent, then we must support the likes of Captain Ibrahim Traoré and other leaders who are working towards a united Africa. Now, before you go, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think of this new Pan-African movement? And do you think a united Africa would be a force for good in the world? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you haven't already, please take a second to subscribe to the channel and help us reach our goal of 1 million subscribers by the end of the year. Also, be sure to check out our new video on the 7 African countries that will be the superpowers of the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.